Britain in the 1950s was rebuilding, and its car industry was eager to prove itself once again. Manufacturers introduced bold new ideas, unusual styling, and ambitious engineering, but not every experiment delivered what buyers expected. Some cars offered genuine innovation, while others left owners wondering whether they had made the right decision. Here are 10 British cars from the 1950s that promised far more than they ultimately delivered. Number 10. Bond Minicar Mark C. By the early 1950s, Britain still needed cheap and economical transport, and few vehicles appeared better suited to that role than the Bond Minicar Mark C. Produced by Sharp Commercials in Preston for 1952. The little three-wheeler looked unlike almost anything else on British roads. Buyers appreciated two things immediately. First, fuel economy was exceptional at a time, when many families still carefully watched their household budgets. Second, its lightweight 197 cubic centimeters Villiers two-stroke engine was mechanically simple and inexpensive to maintain. For some owners, the Bond seemed like the perfect answer to post-war motoring. However, there was one compromise that quickly became difficult to ignore. The Mark C had no reverse gear. Owners who parked nose first into a tight space often had to climb out and physically swing the front wheel assembly around by hand before driving away. Contemporary road tests mention the limitation, but many buyers only fully appreciated the inconvenience after taking delivery. Several owners later recalled that the novelty wore off surprisingly quickly, particularly when maneuvering the car in wet weather. The next vehicle on our list promised international success, but found itself fighting an entirely different enemy. Number 9. Standard Vanguard Phase 1. When the Standard Vanguard arrived in 1948, the Standard Motor Company had ambitious plans. Management hoped to create a genuine export success capable of competing against American and European rivals. At first glance, the formula appeared convincing. Its styling took inspiration from contemporary American sedans, giving British buyers something that looked noticeably more modern than many domestic competitors. Under the bonnet sat a robust 2,088 cubic centimeters overhead valve four-cylinder engine that allowed respectable performance, with contemporary tests recording speeds approaching 80 miles per hour. For many motorists, the Vanguard represented progress. Unfortunately, ownership sometimes brought unwelcome surprises. The bodywork proved particularly vulnerable to corrosion. Sills, wheel arches, and floor sections often deteriorated faster than owners expected, especially in Britain's damp climate. Mechanically, the car remained dependable, but keeping the body in good condition could become expensive. Some owners later admitted they spent nearly as much time visiting body shops as they did enjoying long-distance journeys. The next car attempted to provide affordable family motoring, but one unusual omission frustrated buyers from the beginning. Number 8. Standard 8. Introduced in 1953, the Standard 8 targeted families moving into car ownership for the first time. The company promoted it as an economical and modern alternative to aging pre-war designs. There was certainly plenty to like. Its clean styling looked contemporary for the period, and the efficient 803 cubic centimeters overhead valve engine delivered respectable fuel economy. Purchase prices were also competitive, helping make new car ownership more accessible. Yet owners soon discovered an unexpected compromise. The Standard 8 lacked an external boot lid. Loading luggage involved folding down the rear seat and feeding bags through the rear passenger compartment. While practical in theory, many owners found the arrangement awkward during everyday shopping trips or family holidays. Period reviews occasionally criticized the decision, suggesting buyers deserved a more conventional luggage compartment. Some motorists tolerated the inconvenience. Others wondered why Standard had overlooked something so fundamental. The next car combined motorsport credibility with advanced engineering, but its reputation would eventually become overshadowed by reliability concerns. Number 7. Jowett Jupiter Mark 1A. Few small British sports cars generated as much excitement during the early 1950s as the Jowett Jupiter. Built by the independent Bradford manufacturer, the Jupiter offered engineering that was genuinely innovative for its time. Its flat-four engine sat low within the chassis, helping improve balance and handling characteristics. Independent suspension also contributed to road manners that impressed journalists and enthusiasts alike. Successes at Le Mans further enhanced the car's reputation. Many buyers believed they were purchasing a sophisticated sports car with a promising future. Unfortunately, ownership could sometimes prove challenging. Some engines developed crankshaft-related issues, particularly if maintenance schedules were neglected. Owners also faced another difficulty. Jowett ceased car production in 1954. Factory support became increasingly limited, and obtaining specialist components gradually became more difficult. Several owners later admitted they still loved driving their Jupiters, but accepted that maintaining one demanded patience and dedication. The next vehicle carried one of Britain's most prestigious names, yet occasionally struggled to live up to the expectations associated with its badge. Number 6. Daimler Conquest Century. By the mid-1950s, Daimler remained closely associated with prestige, refinement, and traditional British craftsmanship. The Conquest Century aimed to combine those qualities with improved performance. On paper, it seemed highly appealing. The six-cylinder engine produced around 100 horsepower, providing stronger acceleration than earlier Daimlers. Inside, buyers enjoyed polished wood trim, leather upholstery, and an atmosphere that felt suitably distinguished. However, some owners encounter a recurring problem. Contemporary reports indicate that overheating occasionally affected Conquest Century models, particularly during slow-moving city traffic. Drivers sometimes found themselves waiting beside the road for temperatures to settle before continuing their journeys. While not every example suffered, the issue became widely discussed among enthusiasts. For customers who had purchased a Daimler expecting effortless reliability, such interruptions could feel disappointing. Fortunately, our next car offered exclusivity and elegant coach-built styling. Unfortunately, British weather would expose weaknesses hidden beneath its handsome appearance. Number 5. Healey Tickford. The Healey Tickford remains one of the more unusual British cars of the early 1950s. Created through a collaboration between Donald Healey and the renowned Tickford coach-building company, it offered buyers something genuinely exclusive in a market increasingly dominated by mass-produced saloons. At first glance, it appeared highly desirable. Its sweeping coach-built bodywork gave the car an elegant appearance that stood apart from ordinary family saloons, while the 2.4-liter Riley engine provided respectable touring performance and effortless cruising on Britain's expanding road network. For affluent motorists seeking individuality, the Tickford certainly delivered. However, practical ownership revealed several drawbacks. The body relied heavily on traditional coach-building techniques, including timber structural sections hidden beneath the metal panels. Over time, exposure to damp conditions could allow moisture to penetrate these areas, leading to deterioration that was often difficult and expensive to repair. Some owners also reported persistent water leaks around doors and windows, particularly as the cars aged. Maintaining a Healey Tickford in first-class condition often demanded far more effort than many buyers initially expected. The next car looked thoroughly modern for its day, but appearances proved slightly misleading. Number 4. Austin A40 Somerset. When Austin introduced the A40 Somerset in 1952, the company wanted buyers to believe they were looking at the future of British family motoring. Visually, the strategy seemed successful. The Somerset featured flowing American-inspired styling that gave it a noticeably more modern appearance than the outgoing A40 Devon. Buyers also appreciated the column-mounted gear change, which Austin marketed as a sophisticated feature normally associated with larger cars. Initially, many customers felt they were getting excellent value. Unfortunately, beneath the updated bodywork, much of the engineering remained familiar. The chassis and suspension owed a great deal to earlier Austin designs, and contemporary road testers frequently criticized the Somerset for excessive body roll and rather soft handling characteristics. Drivers expecting sharp, modern road manners sometimes found the car less impressive once they venture beyond city streets. Several owners later admitted they admired the styling far more than they enjoyed driving the vehicle itself. The next entry attempted to bring Rolls-Royce-style elegance to ordinary motorists, but the results divided opinion almost immediately to number 3, Triumph Mayflower. Few British cars of the 1950s possessed a more distinctive appearance than the Triumph Mayflower. Introduced in 1949, it represented Standard Triumph's ambitious attempt to create a compact luxury car aimed at both domestic and export markets. The cabin was well finished for its class, featuring quality materials and comfortable seating. Independent front suspension also contributed to a reasonably refined ride compared with several competitors. Yet despite these strengths, the Mayflower struggled to win over everyone. Its styling borrowed heavily from larger Rolls-Royce and Bentley limousines, producing proportions that many observers considered unusual on such a small vehicle. Performance presented another challenge. The 1,247 cubic centimeters side valve engine delivered modest power, and acceleration was rarely described as brisk by contemporary reviewers. Some owners appreciated the car's individuality. Others questioned whether its luxury aspirations matched its mechanical abilities. Eventually, the Mayflower disappeared quietly from showrooms, leaving behind a legacy that remains fascinating today. Our runner-up offered affordable mobility to thousands of motorists, but its unique layout demanded a certain degree of confidence behind the wheel. Number 2, Reliant Regal Mark III. By the mid-1950s, Reliant was determined to expand beyond motorcycles and offer practical transportation to buyers seeking low running costs. The Regal Mark III represented one of its most serious efforts. One major advantage was its lightweight fiberglass body, which resisted rust and kept manufacturing costs relatively low. Another attraction involved licensing regulations. Because the Regal had 3 wheels, many drivers could legally operate it using a motorcycle license, opening car ownership to a much wider audience. For budget-conscious families, this seemed extremely appealing. However, the design also introduced compromises. Contemporary reviews noted that strong crosswinds and sudden maneuvers required careful attention from drivers. Some owners reported feeling less confident during fast cornering compared with conventional four-wheel cars. Although thousands of people use their Regals successfully every day, the unusual handling characteristics became an important part of the model's reputation. And that reputation continues to follow Reliant products even now. But our number 1 car faced disappointment at the highest level imaginable. Number 1, Daimler DK400. The Daimler DK400 carried enormous expectations from the moment it appeared. Daimler had supplied prestigious vehicles to the British royal household for decades, and the company hoped the DK400 would continue that tradition. It certainly possessed impressive credentials. The limousine featured an exceptionally spacious rear compartment capable of accommodating 3 passengers comfortably across the rear seat. Inside, buyers enjoyed traditional craftsmanship, including polished wood trim, fine upholstery, and a quiet, dignified atmosphere. Unfortunately, period reports suggest performance sometimes struggled to match the car's imposing appearance. Its considerable weight placed heavy demands on the available power, and some observers felt the vehicle lacked the effortless performance expected from a flagship state limousine. When the royal household later moved towards Rolls-Royce for official state transport, Daimler's position at the top of Britain's prestige market became increasingly difficult to maintain. The DK400 was not necessarily a poor car. Rather, it was a vehicle burdened by exceptionally high expectations that proved difficult to satisfy completely. The 1950s remain one of the most fascinating decades in British automotive history. Manufacturers experimented boldly, introduced genuinely innovative ideas, and occasionally produced cars that simply asked too much of their owners. Yet even the most misjudged vehicles helped shape the industry we know today. Which of these forgotten British cars surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe to UKTorque for more stories from Britain's remarkable motoring past.